local in the morning. It's 8:40. Well, you know that gun range proposal over in Newport has been something we've talked about a little bit here at WNTK, but it's something that people in Newport definitely talk about a lot. I reached out to Rebecca Wagner. She's the attorney representing the Newport Safety Coalition. We're going to talk to her this morning about the gun range and where their position on it. Good morning, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic. So, obviously, this is a somewhat contentious issue in the Newport area.
Safe to say yes.
Yeah, I think everybody pretty much knows the background that Ruger and then the Mountain View Gun Club got together, proposed a range. Now, we went through the planning board part of that situation. The planning board did approve the plan, and we need to be clear on that. They approved the plan for the plans that were presented for construction, but they haven't approved the range yet, correct?
No, they have approved the range. They put some conditions on it that Ruger will need to meet, but as far as the planning board goes, Ruger has passed the planning board's muster.
Okay.
Of course, my clients argue they haven't, and the planning board shouldn't have approved it. But I did need to make one correction for something you've said so far. Is I am one of the attorneys for the Newport Safety Coalition. I actually have co-counsel Michael Fisher, who is an attorney in Lebanon.
Okay, sounds good. We'll make note of that as we discuss that further. So, all that being said, so now the Newport Safety Coalition has put in an appeal to that plan. Do you want to talk about why the appeal was put in?
Basically because we think that the planning board illegally and unreasonably approved Ruger's site plan. We list about 4 issues in our appeal. We have appealed this both to the Superior Court and to the Newport Zoning Board of Adjustment. Planning board appeals are interesting in that there's sort of a bifurcated process. You can take appeal directly to the Superior Court unless it's something involving the zoning ordinance. If it's in any way related, if the approval is in any way related to the zoning ordinance, then you need to file the appeal with the zoning board. So we did both, just in case there's anything in there that might be under the zoning board's purview.
That being said, the zoning seems to be a big issue here. One of the things that I'm getting from listeners and people who are involved on both sides, to be quite honest with you, is there's a divide on how the zoning should be handled. The understanding that I have is that the property is zoned industrial. Now, there is an argument that part of the property might not be. That's something I've picked up.
Yeah, so what it is over a year ago, I think at this point, there was a equitable waiver application put into the zoning board, because the property, part of it is zoned industrial and the other part I believe is zoned rural. So since Ruger wanted to construct on the part of the property that was zoned rural and it wasn't a use that was permitted in that zone, they needed an equitable waiver, which they got. The appeals period is over for that, so that's said and done.
So with the zoning issue, you know, there are people out there who are saying, now wait a minute, this is industrial. You know, this could be used, you could put a helicopter pad in there, you could put a truck depot. Why is the fire range the contentious part? Would the people who have spoken up against this, would they speak out to any industrial use?
I can't say what they would speak out about if this were another use. You know, the one thing the planning board stated, at least one of the members stated, that he thought the noise issue was addressed because this was an industrial zone. Noise shouldn't matter. But the point is, no matter what is being constructed there, it would need to get site plan approval, and the board would need to look at what sort of noise it would be producing and the impact it would have on the neighbors. So that statement is just plain wrong.
So then that gets back to the appeal that based on the idea that the noise study would have to be updated. Did they do a noise study?
They did. Well, they did 2 noise studies. The first one was, I believe, by Ruger employees for the zoning board. My clients challenged that. Ruger did another sound study. I believe they hired a company called URS to do it. You know, it was a company under their employ. Indicated that at most they tested 7 weapons at one time. Now, what we've mentioned in the appeal is that Ruger indicates a peak usage. They anticipate 10 cars.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how many people are in those cars is a question. It could be one person per car. It could be 4, maybe 5 people per car. But assuming it's one person per car, they expect at least 10 people at a time to be using it. Now, they also have parking spaces for 56 people. So if the parking lot is full, there's at least 56 people at that range.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there was an article in, I believe, the Union Leader that indicated usage at gun ranges is actually exploding right now. That a lot of ranges have had to put caps on their membership. They're a lot busier than they used to be, than they anticipated being. You know, I believe the gun club has about 300 members now, but this range will be open to Ruger employees. You know, they might expand once this range is built. We just don't know what the total usage at any one time will be. And Ruger didn't do a cumulative noise study, which our experts indicated is really what you need to do to determine the noise impact.
Now, that all being said, one of the arguments that Ruger has made is, hey, we've addressed this. Like you said, the studies have been done and then it's been approved. But the other thing they're saying is the design of the grounds with, I guess they say no blue sky where you won't be able to see the sky, but also the berms will protect people from the sound. And is there an appeal on that? Are you concerned about the construction of the facility?
Well, our noise argument is, you know, the berms may or may not reduce the noise as they anticipate. You know, we unfortunately won't know that until this range is built. Once it's built, we can't challenge the range. If it's much noisier than Ruger anticipated, if the berms don't reduce the noise like they've said they will, well, that's too bad.
On the WNT... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
There's a state law that specifically prohibits individuals from suing a range, criminal or civil, once it's constructed, as long as it complies with whatever noise ordinance was in place with the town at the time it was constructed. Newport has no noise ordinance. There's no cap on noise.
Which, you know, Rebecca, with that being said, I kind of am in a position here where I say, well, if there's no cap on noise, the studies have been done, it was approved, the appeal, I question some of the noise arguments. Now, to be fair, I've been public on this airwave saying I believe that the sound issue as a neighbor is a reasonable argument. I think you have a reasonable argument there. One of the things that's come to my attention as we pulled the information from the state of New Hampshire Judicial Branch, Superior Court, it appears to me that some of these people that have put in, they live a mile from the range.
And they've heard the noise from the range. They heard the sound test.
Now, with that all being said, the last question I have to ask you, and I don't mean this to sound contentious, is there anything Ruger could do, barring building a Kevlar soundproof 300-yard building, that they could do that the organization would say, okay, we'll let it go?
I'm not going to say there's nothing they can do, but, you know, it's our position this is the wrong property. It's ringed by residences. It's going to be loud. There's serious questions about potential environmental contamination. You know, there are other sites that Ruger might build this on. They did look at other sites, but they found, I think they looked at maybe 10 other sites, but they found them all wanting. One of the more interesting sites they looked at was a property in Unity. And this is listed in their wetlands application. But one of the reasons they chose not to pursue that property was in part because Unity had I forget the exact words, but basically set some limits to what noise could be produced.
That might have been just looking ahead and saying, you know, seeing where the laws were. I mean, the fact is firearms manufacturers have to be dialed into laws because they know they're going to face lawsuits and they're going to face opposition, so they pick places that have loose laws. I mean, let's be honest about that.
Right, and they chose not to go to Unity because the restrictions there on potential noise. So it's just interesting to me that they chose not to go there because of that, in part.
Now, with that being said, if they stayed, let's say they wanted to stay in Newport, and they found in the Newport area, within this town limits or jurisdiction, is there anywhere they could go in Newport that wouldn't be fought by this organization?
I really can't say. It would depend on how close it is to individuals' property. There might be other individuals that would be impacted that would be interested in challenging it. It's really hard to say.
Rebecca, I got to get going. I got to leave it there. I appreciate you coming on. This is a tough environment, and I appreciate you coming on. And as this develops, I'll be reaching out to you again on it.
Thank you very much for having me.